This is Train to Perform, the undisputed alpha podcast in training, fitness, and sports performance. Here, you'll develop your skills with the cold, hard facts in fitness, sports performance, recovery, and nutrition. Real, tried and true, evidence-based facts that have been proven to move you faster, move you stronger, and move you forward. Now, here's your host of Train to Perform, Julian Sisman.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Train to Perform podcast with your host, Julian Sisman. Today we have Aidan Curran. He is the guy behind 90 Minute Fitness on Instagram. It's a great episode. We talk about, his journey as a soccer player coming from Europe, going through the culture change of American college soccer. And then in addition to that, going back to Europe and, playing again and, getting back into the different flow of soccer. He is also, like I mentioned before, the man behind 90 Minute Fitness, which is a Instagram account that talks a lot about soccer fitness, which is, where I found him and wanted to talk about why he, started doing what he was doing. It has probably helped thousands of kids because it's some great content that can be, seen on his Instagram feed. So check out this episode. It's pretty informative, helpful. This can be honestly listened to by coaches, athletes or soccer players mostly, and parents. This can be really helpful into, understanding the, not only the fitness in soccer, but also the, difference, how it is here and how it is in Europe. So get a kind of a different perspective. So hope you guys enjoy. Again, please, after listening, please rate and review. I really appreciate it. And also please share the podcast. Thank you and have a great day. Just kind of give me a little bit of background, where you came from, how you got into soccer and, you're playing. I know you've played in the United States. I know you played in Scotland. So, kind of tell me a little bit about yourself and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, of course. So just started playing soccer when I was young, about 7, 8 years old. I just played for youth teams around Ireland where I grew up. Pretty much just spent my time playing there until I was 18 or 19, at which point I went to college in Ireland to UCD. So it was quite a good soccer college as such, probably the best in Ireland. They're always kind of at the top.
What's that stand for?
So it's University College Dublin. So it's in. Okay. So I moved from Waterford to Dublin. So it's about 2.5 hours away. So yeah, just for me, that was kind of the next step forward. In Waterford, there weren't too many opportunities to progress. So I was kind of always overlooked, just at a younger age. Probably down to myself as well. I just wasn't kind of developed enough at the time. But I knew that I kind of had to get out of that area if I was to progress in the game. So that's when I moved there, and that was kind of a turning point for me as such. Mm-hmm. And then just from there, I spent 3 years studying there. I studied history and social computing, but really it was only for the soccer that I went there. I was always academically minded and I always wanted to pursue that, but really it was guided by football, soccer. So it was kind of wherever soccer took me. And then I just combined the academics with that. So then after 3 years there, made my way across to the US just on a soccer scholarship it was always something that I wanted to do. And at the age of 22, I did kind of find that I was at a point where I was mature enough to go. I think a lot of players go when they're 17 or 18, but I think at that point, due to me having injuries as well at the time, I had 2 hip surgeries. I think I just wasn't in a position to go at that time. But when I got to the age of 22, physically, mentally, everything, I was just ready to make the move at that point.
So, talking about soccer, tell me about your experience with youth soccer in Scotland. And then, go ahead.
Yeah, so is this so in Ireland just when I was growing up? Or, so I mean, it was, for me, I was living in the country, so there was very few opportunities.
Okay.
It was mainly you had to live in the city if you were to kind of get the chance to play at a representative level. So for me, it was always just kind of playing with local teams. The managers weren't the coaches, they weren't certified, they weren't anything, they were basically just parents. So it was kind of difficult to obviously progress. You weren't from the city, so that was always a bit of a barrier to my development. But at the end of the day, you have to take responsibility for yourself. And I knew what I wanted to do. So it was just a case of working where you are with what you have. And that was really, really for me. Overall, the standard of youth soccer in the country is very, very good. But really, it's just in Dublin that is kind of the bigger cities in the country. That's where most kind of national team players at underage level, that's where they come from. If you're from the more rural areas, it can be a little bit more difficult to break in. You'll often find that players travel an hour and a half just to play with a better team. So it's there's the opportunities. There is the opportunities to play. You'll always find a team to play for. But whether the standard of coaching is there is probably questionable, especially at my age. When I was growing up, it's much different now. It's much more formal. Coaches are certified and things like that. But when I was growing up, it was certainly much different.
So are there any notable pros or national team players that have come from like the suburbs of Ireland or of Dublin, or is it, or like you said, like most of them have come from like the central part of Dublin?
Yeah, so there's quite a few. I think in recent times, definitely. There was probably from my area, there was one, John O'Shea, he played for Manchester United.
Yeah.
He was from my area, so 20 minutes away. He would have been the most famous person to come from there to play the game. But really, he was an exception. Like I said, mostly from Dublin. In the past, it has changed in recent times, which is good. Another player as well, Derek Williams, he's actually just signed for LA Galaxy from Blackburn, so he's played in England. He was the same age group as me growing up, but was always so much better than everyone else. He ended up going to Aston Villa and then just spent some time in the Championship in League One, and he's just after signing for LA Galaxy now. So there is players, but it is a little bit more difficult depending on where you're from.
Yeah. So you come to the US and at 22, and remind me where you went to university again?
So it's the University of Findlay in Ohio. It was a D2 school.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I feel like a lot of D2 schools in the US take a lot of players from abroad, more like NAIA, and then you have like D2, and then because I think they still give scholarship, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, I think with D2, it's just more down to, it's a big adjustment to come to college in the US. So I think if you have a player who goes into a big D1 school, it can often be an adjustment. So you'll find that even players from abroad, even if they're really, really good, they'll still kind of go to a D2 level. The only exception to that would be if you're competing at national team level. So if you're representing the Ireland, Scotland, England, then you'll find that you'll go to kind of a D1 level. But for the most part, it's a D2 or NAIA due to the age, unlimited age as well. So
that's awesome. So how was your experience at Findlay? And tell me where that is. It's funny that you it's in Ohio, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
So I played at Ohio State. So I have no idea. Like I know like where some of the universities are, but like I have no idea where.
So from obviously yourself living in Columbus, it's just pretty much just north. So you just go up the way. It's about Oh, it's about an hour and a half, I think, from Columbus. So we used to go there sometimes just to visit and
Yeah, hang
things.
out.
But so it's about an hour and a half from
So
Columbus.
it's up near Akron, it sounds like.
Yeah, so a little bit away from Akron again. It's kind of the best way to describe it is between Columbus and Cleveland. So it's about from Toledo as well. It's just down from there as well. So it's kind of in the middle of nowhere, really. But I had a great time there.
So how was it? Like, how was your experience with soccer there? I mean, you know, you're coming from a country where an area where like soccer is like crazy, you know, and then you come to US where it's like, especially in Ohio, where American football is like they don't care about anything else but American football. So like, you know, tell me how your experience was there. I'm just kind of curious because, you know, everyone that comes to the US from overseas, like it's a totally different experience on, you know, what they see, the players, the level. Granted, you might have been with more, you know, players from overseas versus American just because of it being D2. So yeah, tell me about how that was.
Yeah, it was a huge adjustment coming from Ireland, especially living in Dublin as well. I was living just outside the city, so you had that kind of hustle and bustle of the city as such. So then to move to a small little town in Ohio was quite an adjustment. I was quite fortunate when I went in that I went in with 4 English players. So we all lived together, and there was a German guy and a couple of Bulgarians as well. So I was very fortunate that we all started at the same time, because it would have been a different experience if I was the only international there. I think it would have been much different because we were all kind of as lost as each other, had no idea how anything worked. So that really, really helped at the time. But from a soccer perspective, it was definitely a change because the minute you land here, it's all basketball, American football, hockey, all your American sports. So it's a huge adjustment coming from, if you simply turn on the TV in Europe, it's just soccer. That's all is on. So it's a huge adjustment. But for me, I have to say that it was just, I was just so happy to be into full-time training. So in the college system, of course, you just go to a full-time setup. So for me, I don't think I thought too much about kind of the soccer culture as such. I was just so happy to be actually training full-time and to kind of feel as if you're in that full-time environment. So for me, that was an easy transition. In that perspective, but it was very difficult because again, I'm used to training Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday in Ireland. So to go from that to actually training full time in the US with 2 games a week as well. Obviously, the college season is quite condensed, 2 games a week, but that's another story. But
I was just about to ask you about that. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, it's like I suppose in an ideal world, it would be a long season, so 9-10 months like they have everywhere else. But I think in reality, because depending on the location, it can be quite difficult because you can't train outdoors and when there's snow. So it really depends on where the college is. So I don't think it would be feasible to go to a 9-10 month season. It would be more beneficial for players, but I think just in terms of the logistics of it.
I mean, it could. It's just one of those things where, you know, you would have a cutoff, say like November, like Thanksgiving weekend, like Thanksgiving week. Then you have sort of a transition period. So, you know, you don't do any games until maybe like, I mean, it really depends. I mean, the weather's weird these days. So you could do it, you know, starting late January, early February. I mean, there, you know, it's in the talks before COVID was happening, before COVID, you know, kind of interrupted things that were going on, because a lot of college coaches, even like big time college coaches, especially the University of Maryland's coach is a big advocate for it. Want it to be that way because they feel that, and I agree with them, that it prepares the players a little bit better. And you don't have these, you know, condensed seasons where, you know, you're throwing in, you know, 15, 16, sometimes, you know, depending on how deep you go into the NCAA, you know, like a season where like, you know, you don't have a lot of break. It's like game, and you might have like a week break every once in a while, but like game, Friday, Saturday, then, you have a game like Tuesday, Thursday. It's like, it's crazy. It was crazy. When I was playing at Ohio State, it was like that way. And that's why a lot of these D1 schools have so many players on the roster.
Yeah, absolutely. Because again, that comes down to injuries and you being in the fitness world as well. I mean, it's not great if you're playing 2 games a week, and in the college system as well. There, in terms of recovery, there's not that kind of equipment and attention that professional teams have. Because obviously in the Premier League, English Premier League, they have 2 games a week, but they have top level recovery methods. Whereas in college, you're going home, and as a recovery, you're probably eating pizza on the bus back, and that's how it is. So it's like you said, it just comes down to injuries as well, and it can be a huge problem.
I mean, it's changed. It's definitely changed since I was playing. I mean, I was playing in like 2008, 2009. I think those thoughts, so recovery, nutrition, all that kind of stuff, has changed a lot. Like we're talking like having like post-workout nutrition, like immediately ready for you the minute you finish like a workout and the minute you finish a training set. Like it was never like that. I think it has transitioned in the past like 4 or 5 years because, I'm a part of like NSCA, and they, so I run like the soccer SIG. I don't know if you know about that. If you don't, like, we can talk about it. Yeah, it's actually good for you. It will be really beneficial for you. But anyways, I'm part of NSCA, going to a lot of these conferences. You start to learn about like what's going on at the college level. Cause like a lot of the people that go to these conferences are in the college scene. So you start to talk to like different people, and you start to learn like nutrition has become like totally revamped. Like we're talking like the minute you finish, as I was saying, you have workout, protein, snacks, things ready for you. That was never like that when I was there. It was like you eat, you work out, you got to go to like the dining hall. You might catch like the dining hall still open. Like it was crazy. And I think like something happened, and I think they've totally, changed their attitude about like all that kind of stuff. But you're right. I mean, it's crazy. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting where you go from like, 2 or 3 sessions a week to like 5 days, maybe 1 or 2 games. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a huge change, and I think for me, I had quite a few injuries when I went there first, just because you're not used to the demands of it. And like I was really fit going in terms of fitness tests and whatnot, but I think there's a difference between actually playing and the pressure that puts on your joints and things. So I suffered quite a few injuries in my first season, so that did hold me back a little bit. But you just have to deal with it, and you have to deal with the intense schedule, and you condition yourself to do it. And for me, I always try to take those extra little things, like in terms of nutrition and recovery, just so that I would be right for the next day or for the next game. So I think you can only get away with it so long. And I think especially in the college system, if you're 18, 19, 20, you can get away with not recovering for a little while, but eventually, as the years go by, it does catch up on you, and you do need to do a little bit more. Even for me now at the age of 27, obviously I'm still kind of involved in playing. Most of my stuff now is recovery rather than kind of training for performance. A lot of it is just actually recovering so that I can go properly at the next training session. So it changes as you go along in the years, but I think at that college level, it's great to hear that obviously there's more emphasis been put on recovery and nutrition because it's so important. So it is great to hear that that's kind of been looked at as a priority, just instead of actually just pounding people into the ground with work and running and lifting, because in the long term that can be quite detrimental.
Yeah. What are you doing now that you're still involved in playing?
So just before COVID hit, I did sign just semi-professionally in the UK with a club. So it was going quite well at the time, and then COVID hit, and all the games stopped. So I have, like, since I left the US, I played in Germany at semi-professional level as well, a little bit in Latvia, then back in Ireland as well. So I've kind of, obviously that's still a big part of my life, and it's still something that I'm trying to pursue. So it's just now I'm back in the US. It's just I have a couple of injuries that I need to tidy up, but as soon as that's done, I will be kind of actively looking to continue where I left off in the UK, really.
So, all right. So you finished. How many years were you at Finley?
So I was 2 seasons. So I actually went as a master's student. So I did my MBA there. So it was only 2 seasons in total.
And then what happened after that? What'd you do?
So after that, so I finished that season in November, and then I signed a contract to play in Germany for that January. So I left the US at that point, and then went to Germany just to try there, because I'd had a trial previously before I went to the US. I had a trial with a professional team there, which went quite well. I didn't get offered anything, but just gave me a taste of what could be there. So
how would you compare that, now that you're talking about it? How would you compare that to what you saw at the college level here to what you went back to over there?
It's so funny because a lot of people do ask compare the levels, and it's so difficult to do because there's so many different aspects to it. Because, for example, in the US, I think just in the college system, so the D2 level that I was at, sometimes you don't have the kind of soccer IQ as such. It's a very physical game. The physical attributes are there, but sometimes that kind of tactical awareness isn't there. Whereas especially when I went to Germany, the players were just so technically good, and these are all part-time players as well, but they were just so technically good, and they just had that natural technique. And then, of course, with their soccer IQ as well, they were just able to think that little bit faster, just execute simple kind of 1-touch, 2-touch play just that bit faster. So it was kind of very similar in levels as such, but in different ways. I always think if you combine the two, so if you had if the players in Germany at that level had the physical attributes of the college players D2, they'd be absolutely unbelievable, and vice versa as well. So if the college players, if they had developed that soccer IQ and had that ability, that technical ability, and also the tactical awareness, if you combine the two, they'd be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, that's the downfall for a lot of American soccer players. I mean, I don't really care if I say it here first, but the technical ability to handle the ball and those kind of things. I think that's one of the biggest things that holds a lot of the American kids back from playing in Europe. I mean, there are some kids that, do the extra work, but a lot of the kids don't. So they focus mainly on that physical standpoint. Yes, the physical standpoint is necessary. The, fitness, getting strong, all that stuff is great because, it protects your body from, the demands of the game. I totally understand it. That's what I do. But I feel that even at a young level, there's so much emphasis on things that are just irrelevant versus mastering the ball and understanding how to handle it. That it just gets a lot of coaches just don't know how to do it, for one. And so when they, continue to develop, they have a good first touch. Yeah, they have a good handle with the ball, but their ability to beat players, you probably see in Germany, one-on-one beating players, it's not high quality here. It's just so bad.
Yeah, no, I have to agree because I think it's a thing of, even with the coaching, it's all very, how would you say, there's not much room for the players to make decisions. And that's the big thing as you go up in the levels. It's putting players in situations that they have to make decisions. So I think the best example of it is, and I spoke about it before, just on a podcast, but I was with a player in Latvia when I was on trial there, and he was an American guy. And he'd never actually, so I asked him what team he played for, and he didn't actually even play for a team. He just had a private coach. And in my mind, that just blew my mind completely. Because I'm all for private coaching and individual coaching. You do need that to supplement team training. But for him, he just had an individual coach, didn't actually play for a team. And that's something I think within America is you need to prioritize actually playing for a team and being in that team environment, been put in unpredictable situations where you actually have to make decisions. And for him, he was excellent on ball mastery and all that sort of thing. But when it came down to actually making decisions, even tactically, he just ran around, obviously giving 100% effort, which was excellent, but just not making the right decisions at the right times. And that just comes from exposure to actually being put into those situations and been forced to make those decisions in a split second. And that's what you get from team training. And it's something that needs to be, I think, emphasized more within the American game, definitely.
Yeah. So you're in Germany, and so this was like right after college. And so how long, like, were you just bouncing around different teams, or were you on a team for, a substantial amount of time?
So I was very fortunate to actually sign the contract before I went there. So when I was actually still in America, I signed the contract with them. So I knew kind of what team I was going to play for at the time, which was good. But I think I suppose I went into it a little bit blindly, expecting more than what it was. So it was part-time, but even at the part-time level, you're still training 3 nights a week with a game. When I went there, it was during, they have quite a long off season, so they do like a mini pre-season around just after Christmas. So that was during that time that I went there, and you were training like 5-6 days a week, even at the part-time level, which is really, really good. And it was good. It's good for development. But I think for me, I expected to do too much too soon. So I kind of expected to go to this team and then push on to a higher team within a few months. But I think in hindsight, if I'd actually even I stayed at that team for maybe 3-4 months before I went back to Ireland, if I'd actually stayed at that team, even for a season or two, I think I would have learned so much and developed so much more. And that just comes down to patience. And I think for me at the time, I just didn't have it. I think coming from the college system, sometimes it can give you that kind of inflated ego such that you're better than you are because, I played D2 college soccer, I played full time. But at the end of the day, the level isn't, when you go to Europe, it's totally different. It's totally different. And you need to have that patience when you go there. And I suppose for me, if I could go back in time, I would just kind of stay at that level and learn more about the game. But I just hadn't, for various reasons, it didn't work out. I was in a small German town as well. Had nobody around, didn't know anyone, struggled with the language. It was winter time as well. So there was so many different things. But I kind of in hindsight, I wish I'd persevered. But everything happens for a reason, and that led me on to different opportunities in the UK and whatnot. So, but yeah, definitely it's a big adjustment.
Yeah. So how long did you, like after you finished college, how long did you continue to play? And then, at a high level, or has it kind of like, I'm assuming you left there initially when you were 22. So it's probably like 24 when you left. So I guess all this that's going on right now is like in the past like 3 years, right?
So about 3 or 4 years. A lot's been happening. Like I still kept playing and things like that, but just I focused on actually improving as a player rather than just having on your CV that you played for such a team. And I found that kind of accelerated my development actually when I just focused on improving rather than worrying about the external factors of actually signing for a team and things. So like with every day that passes, I like to think that I'm improving, and that's all you can do. You can just improve every day, and you can't worry about those outside factors in terms of location, things like that. You can just do the best of what you have at the time, and that's kind of mentality that I had since I left Germany. I suppose it's a big wake up call for me when I left there 3-4 years ago, and from then on I just decided I just wanted to improve, and I just wanted to get to the highest level that I can, and just kind of, like I said, keep improving each day.
So what were the things that you felt like as a player playing at a decent level that you need to improve on? Because like clearly this is leading to you where you are right now. You have this Instagram channel or account where you have a decent amount of following. So I'm assuming what you you found out there has led to somewhat of where you are right now with that account and what you're doing with it and how, you're helping whoever you help, as, you know, as a, fitness coach, if that's what you call it. Like, do you have like certifications in fitness?
Yes. So when I came back to Ireland after Germany, I am a qualified personal trainer, fitness instructor. Not any formal college education, but obviously I have those certificates and a few coaching certificates as well and things like that. But yeah, just I suppose the how I got started with that is I just wanted to create content for players out there. So for example, if a player on a particular day wanted to do an upper body workout, for example, just that they had someplace to go to actually get just a simplified workout. Because I think a lot of the time and prior to even probably 2-3 years ago, I think a lot of the pages were very complex and they were done from a sports science background, and there was a lot of complex material for players to work through, and a lot of it wasn't soccer specific as well. So I just wanted someplace very simple, just that they could go get a workout if they needed to, so lower body, upper body, whatever it might be, and just actually simplify it. Because I just like to always think that if I had that when I was younger, just something simple like that where you get simple workouts all specific to soccer, it would have made a big difference. And again, I just want to try and make a difference, because obviously I made mistakes as I was growing up in terms of my training and things like that, because when I left the US, I was just far too big. I put on far too much muscle, too much lifting in the gym, too top heavy, which is it's a common thing in America. Obviously, it's just to lift as big as you can, and sometimes that's not always the best for soccer players. And I think that did hinder me, which I've rectified now, and I'm a different player now, and I physically am much different now. But I think back then I was very more focused on body composition, and it wasn't directly relatable to the game, and it kind of led to a lot of injuries. It became very rigid. So yeah, I think I just wanted to help players avoid the same mistakes that I made, because when I started in the gym, it was all, bodybuilding.com. That's what you went to. Oh, I want to get an upper body workout, and you put it into Google, and that's all that comes up. And it's not always, directly relatable to the game. It's not always what's going to help you. And I think sometimes as well, like you said, in America, there's a big emphasis put on the physicality of players, but sometimes you can get to that point where you just pack on a little bit too much muscle, and it's going to be detrimental to your game. So again, I had that wake up moment where I was playing against a very fast winger, and he didn't have much muscle, but he was just outpacing me every single time, and that made me wake up to, well, I've just wasted my time doing bicep curls. Like, what was the point of doing bicep curls if I can't keep up with this guy? So it just really made me reevaluate my training and how I was kind of operating day to day in terms of my recovery and the time that I was putting into certain things, and just to actually focus on what would actually improve me on the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think what you have going there is great, especially some of the like different little fitness things that are broken down to pretty simple graphics to follow. I think that's great. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I've used some.
Oh, thanks. No, it's good to hear. Good to hear.
So, it's great. And I totally agree with you. It's, I would say that, like, when I was in university too, there was a very similar, when I was at Ohio State, it was very similar into what you're saying about, all the focus is on, like, let's get big, powerful, which is fine. But, the more and more I get into, like, every year, like, the more and more I get into this, the more and more I'm all about, like, let me find ways to, like, make these soccer players, like, get as much out of them as I can with the least amount of possibility of injury, even in the gym. And then, like, if they go out and play that weekend or whatever, they're going to be able to recover. It's not going to be like a crazy detriment to their central nervous system. and they're not going to be able to recover. And, 2 days from now, they're going to play horribly. So I try to, every time I program, it's a lot of like, I have a plan. And I was like talking to the trainers that work with me. It's like, I have the plan, but sometimes I'm like on the fly, I got to switch it because, if a kid comes in here and he's tired or whatever, he just wants to get a quick lift in and then go home. Like, we're going to do that. I'm not going to make him do like sprint work and, power and like all that kind of stuff. So, I agree with you. I think, we just got to be a little bit more, thoughtful on, the way each kid or each person that we work with is, because everybody's different. I mean, we can't just sit here and say like, oh, this worked for me, so like it's going to work for you. And I think that's one of the bigger problems with a lot of colleges is, unless you're like a D1, have a ton of money, and you have a lot of things to work with, you're going to have a lot of these other universities where there's not a lot to work with. So you got to like build those relationships with those kids versus like having, all these monitoring systems and able to like, use that to like program, weeks or months worth of stuff.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, because I think it's so hard to, in terms of kind of the periodization for soccer, it's so difficult because it will take a professional player in the US, their season's 9-10 months, and it can be so hard because I think in American football, for example, you have a really long off season, so it's easier to plan because they don't have that interference of games and how they feel after games or day to day during training, so it's easier to program for that. But I think with soccer, it will change from week to week or day to day, and you do, like you said, you do need to make those adjustments depending on how the player is feeling, how many minutes they've played and things like that. So it does need to be flexible in that sense. Obviously, you need to keep those core movements and of course like compound movements, things like that. You need to have that kind of set base of strength. But I think in terms of actually pushing the player during season, it can be quite difficult. It is something that people need to be aware of. And it's, like you said, it's about improving the player enough, but not absolutely killing them to the point where it's going to be detrimental to their performance on the pitch, because you just want to give them enough stimulation that they'll make improvements, but not to the point where they can't train for 3-4 days because of the soreness. So it's a fine balance between it, really.
Yeah. It's so now that you build this account or late brand, what's like who do you work with? What's your goal with it? Is it something that you just want to keep building? Like, what are you looking to do? Because I know you still want to play, so it's like, they always say like you got to put your energy into everything that you want and focus on that. So, but I know you still want to play, so I'm sure that also could play a role in where you take it as well.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think it was always, I just wanted to have it because it's a great thing to have in addition to playing. And that was kind of my main ambition for it. Was when I started, I actually worked for 3 years in banking once I finished. So I was doing this on the side. I was playing, building 90 Minutes Fitness and working as well full time. So it was just like balancing all that was quite difficult at the time, but it's paid off now where I'm in a position to focus on playing as such and seeking out that next opportunity, but also building 90 Minutes Fitness and being able to commit full time to that. So just my aim for it is just to try and impact as many players as possible. I used to just work one-on-one online with players when I was doing it part-time, but now I had different things in the pipeline. Obviously being back in the US, my wife's American, so being back in the US, looking to get into in-person coaching as well, because there's a big market for it here, and also continue with the online coaching, but also have set group programs as well, of maybe kind of 8 to 10 players in a group kind of 6-week program, which they do, which kind of all gym based as such, with some conditioning work as well. So things like that. But mainly for me, it's just about putting that content out there. Basically for the last 2.5 years, I've done it I do it all for free. I've never received anything for it. So now I just want to turn it into more of a feasible business as such, and expand it to the point where you can reach more people, and ultimately just make an impact on more, because that was the main goal for it when I started. Like I said, you put content out there, free content, and you're not getting anything in return, but it's always worthwhile when you get those messages saying that it helped in tryouts and things like that. So that's what makes it worthwhile. But at the end of the day, you do have to make a living, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do at the moment. Like I said, just being back in the US, just trying to get all the behind the scenes work done for it, and then we'll be good to go for the summer then.
So are you planning on going back to UK anytime soon, or is it something that you're going to stick around here for a few more months? Like,
yeah, so I'm pretty much here for 3 years at least. So with the complexity of the US green card and whatnot, it's you do have to make quite a commitment to it. So I will be here for quite a while, so 3 years minimum. And yeah, that's me, and that's what I'm looking to do, and obviously continue playing over here and build the business and just give it everything. And then yeah, just the US probably long term. That's all I'm kind of looking at for the moment. Just building everything and just taking things day by day and see where it takes me really.
What type of coaching badges do you have?
So it was just with so I did them in college. So it was just the USSF ones. So
okay.
yeah. So basically I just did it during college at the time. But obviously I'm looking
Which one do you have?
So at the time it's like the F1 and then the 11v11. So basically just entitles you to work with 8-year-olds pretty much.
Yeah.
So then took a break from that, obviously, as I went into the banking world. So, but yeah, just now I'm back and I have the time. Definitely looking to expand on that, both from kind of soccer perspective and the fitness as well. Just looking to constantly kind of just expand my knowledge and just try and just become as knowledgeable as possible, and then pass that along really.
So when it comes to your ideas, like are you coming up with these based on experience, or are you using not like some sort of gain knowledge from somewhere that is providing you these ideas on the different type of fitness runs and conditioning sessions that you create? Like you said you had a certification. Is it something from here, or is it something from UK?
So that would have been just from it's a European certification. So that would be from there. But like you said, with the ideas and things like that, obviously that gave me the groundwork. But like yourself, as I'm sure you know, when you're interested in something, you just find yourself constantly researching. And that for me, as I was trying to take my own training to the next level, I just found that obviously you're gaining more knowledge without even realizing it. So it just comes from various places. I have an idea and then I'll just kind of research like different methods and things like that, just based on what I want. It's quite challenging, of course, to come up with content sometimes, and especially now I'm trying to just even push more out there, and it does take up a lot of kind of creativity and things like that. But unfortunately, I always come upon ideas. So long may that continue, just for the purposes of it. But at times it can be difficult to come up with ideas. But I just try and think of kind of simple problems that players might have, and then just try and solve those problems. And I think that kind of keeps me on the right path, really.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I mean that's the best way to do it, is sort of solve the kids that you'd potentially work with, like especially with a lot of soccer players, everything and here in the US it's like fitness, like you got to be fit, you got to the conditioning, it's all about that, which is great. Like, don't get me wrong, like being fit and being able to play 90 minutes is important, but I think one of the other issues on the other side of it is you have all these kids that want to be fit, but they don't also play in like how long it takes to recover from that like high level of sprinting, of conditioning, of all these runs that are can like put a lot of like strain on not only on your like joints and all that kind of stuff, but just like your nervous system, which is like what you're kind of training. So it's interesting because, you know, we hear, you know, I hear all the time in my area, which is I mean, you're not far from where I am. You're probably like 3 hours away. You know, we hear all the time, like these coaches, these soccer coaches that are putting kids through fitness, like every session, like every like practice session. And like, I did 2 sessions for this high school team that I'm coaching, where it was like fitness, because like, that's all I could do. But like, once we were clear to like play, I haven't done any fitness yet, because one, I got kids that are like going to practice and then going to another practice because they're playing club at the same time. Normally high school in this area is not now. It's because of COVID and they moved it. So like right there, like 2 sessions, like within an hour and a half of each other, it's like, I'm not going to do like, there's coaches that do that though. And and they don't get it. And it's so, and it's so annoying because all they're doing is like compounding like days of just training. And then Saturday and Sunday come around, they got 2-3 games. And then like the coach won't give them Monday off. And so they'll just keep going. And then next thing you know, the kid has like, you know, overuse injury, or, you know, I've had kids now. I've had 2 players have like some spinal issues.
Wow.
So and that's from overuse. That's just, it's just too much load on probably the hips, which is like, you know, some lower body issue, which is, you know, if the lower body can't take it, where's the next place is going to go into? It's going to just keep going up the chain. So, yeah, I mean, you know, it's one of those things where there's another reason why I kind of got into, you know, very similar to the situation as you. It's like, I was trying to play pro, you know, I was trying, what do I got to do to get better? What do I got to do to get more fit? What do I got to do to, you know, be better? You know, I worked hours. I did fitness. I would work, you know, hour and a half, 2 hours. Like, I'll do fitness and then I would do ball work, like just, you know, mastering the ball, like every single day. And then, you know, over time, like, you know, injuries happen and this and that. And that's what I try to tell a lot of these kids now. It's like, yo, I've been through this, probably the same as you. Like, I'm trying to tell you what to do. Like, this is how you're going to save your body so that when you play, which is the most important thing, it's not about like practice, it's about playing, that you're going to play at a high level. Because if you can't recover and play at that high level, it's not going to work.
Exactly, because I think it's like you said, it's all about when you actually play games, and that's what makes the difference. And I think even for me, that was something I didn't realize at the time. I think when I was younger, I did. It's not so much working too hard, but it's working too hard at the wrong thing, I suppose. So I used to put in so many hours in the gym, but how important that was, I don't know. Just doing the wrong things. And like you said, it does lead to problems down the line. And it's interesting that you said there's so many younger players now presenting with spinal injuries, which that's like, it is quite worrying to see that, especially in young people as well. And then that comes down to obviously how society has changed as well, down to people that are just more like they're sitting more, hip flexors are tightening, the glutes aren't working how they should be. Things like that, and that has a huge impact when they go out and train, and then that can lead to injuries as well. And like you said, excessive load at a young age as well. It's just a massive problem, and it will lead to hip injuries down the line, as I can testify to, definitely. And like you said, it just needs to be managed, and younger players do need to manage their load, and it's not all about working as hard as possible and feeling just that soreness day after day. It's just about working with someone who knows what they're doing as such, and not being afraid to speak to different people, because everyone has different views. I mean, I have different views to you, you have different views to me, we'll have different views to the next person, and there's nothing right or wrong. It's just, I mean, that's how things constantly evolve, and we can only kind of, I suppose, do what is right by the player, and that's the most important thing. And once they're improving, once their body is in good condition, and like you said, whatever goals they have, it's just about getting them to their goals, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah. And you talk about load. It was interesting. I did a podcast with he's really big in youth athletic development. Man, what's his name? Oh my God. Anyways, so we were talking about load, and we think of, like, in general speaking, load, we only think of it as like during that training session. But he gave me a thought, and I think about it all the time now. It's like, but we don't think about the load, like the compounding load of a kid that comes to soccer practice, and then he might go to like baseball practice, and then he might go to, like, the next day, do the same thing over time. And so it's not just like, he's playing soccer and doing a different sport. You know what I mean? Like, there's just because it's a different sport doesn't mean it doesn't count. You know what I mean? And like, you have all these parents, there's this, multi-sport athletes. Yes, that's great. We want multi-sport athletes. It helps build, different movement skills, different, all the things that they need to be a better athlete. But that doesn't mean go and play like 2 or 3 sports in the same season. We're referring to, let's focus on one. The off season comes around, you go play a totally different sport. Then the next maybe in the spring you do some different, and then fall comes around, whatever. But I never really like thought about that. I'm like, yeah, damn, that's you're not giving yourself, these kids are not giving themselves breaks. And I think, again, it comes down to culture. I'm sure it's a very different in Europe. The culture here is like, I want to be better than the next guy, and then the next guy, and then the next guy. So I'm going to do everything in the book, to be better, versus like, let me be a master at this and get better at this. Because that, if I focus on this and get master, then I'll be better than everybody else. Or, have an off season so your body can recover and play different sports as your off season, not at a high level, at a rec level. Who cares? Like, it's not like you care about that sport. Just have fun with it.
Yeah, everyone's just looking for that instant gratification, really. They just want to get there as quick as possible. But you have to, obviously, like you said, master something. I think that's so important, whether that be in the gym or on the pitch or whatever it might be in life. But you have to be prepared to be patient and to work at it and take the steps. And in the long run, it will pay off. And like you said, but I think everyone now is just looking for that kind of instant improvement and that one little trick that'll make an instant difference to your game. And there's just nothing. It doesn't exist. It's hard work consistently done over time and doing the right things over time, instilling the right habits over time, and that's what will make a difference in the long run.
Do you obviously you're not going back there now, but like when you were back in Ireland, like recently, it's obviously a little different because COVID. Let's say like before COVID, what did you see? Like, I know the culture in Europe is it's all about soccer, but do you see other kids doing different sports? Or is it just kind of not really like something that is sort of talked about or done or emphasized?
It's definitely not as prevalent as it is in the US. I think there's a big multi-sport culture in the US because of perhaps the different seasons that you have and the different sports that are done in different seasons. Definitely in Europe, it's more of it's pretty much soccer is all there is. In Ireland, there is national sports as well, which coincide with soccer, and a lot of people have to choose between those two. But apart from that, when I was in the UK, it's just soccer, and that's all you have. Which is, I mean, there is benefits to multi-sport athletes, and definitely I wouldn't discourage anyone from it. But I think in terms of developing soccer players, if you're immersed in that from a young age, and that's all they're playing, even at a young age, you're playing for 9-10 months out of the year, and it's consistent soccer 2-3 times a week, all focused towards it. Of course, you're going to make that bit more progress than you are if you're like I said, you're not going to get better at soccer swinging a bat. So that comes down to, if you're a soccer player playing baseball, you're not going to get better at soccer doing that. So I suppose that immersion in it from a young age does help. And I suppose that's why, traditionally, I suppose Europe is seen as better than the US when it comes to development for younger players. But that being said, the US is getting there, and I think from an underage level, I think there's a lot of progress been made, but it's still getting there, and hopefully it will get there in the future and keep improving.
When in Ireland, or wherever else that you've been with the youth, like, do you see the practices, how it is here? Or if I probably should explain, like, 4 times a week, or is it 2 to 3 times a week with games on the weekend at that young? I mean, I don't know what level, if I say a level here or age, it'd be like between 8 and like 13, and then it sort of changes after 13. Do you see it similar, or is it like totally different?
It's similar in ways. I think depending on say in Europe, if you go into a professional academy at a young age, that's kind of a different situation. And obviously that's a different level of player. But for the average player who's playing maybe with their local team as such, they just train twice a week with a game at the weekends. But again, that's consistent throughout the year. So that's done 9-10 months out of the year. Whereas in the US, it's more of a seasonal thing. And of course, I know academy teams in the US and things, they do train, 3 and 4 times a week and whatnot. But again, it's different. And I think it comes down to that immersion in the culture and the training methods and things like that. Because again, it just comes down to, and it's a very, very simple example. But for me here, I notice when you're driving around the neighborhoods, it's always basketball hoops that you see outside every home. Whereas in Europe, it's always a soccer goal that you'll see. So although these players might be training twice a week, every day they're playing. And that, that's from a young age as well, before school, after school. And that's what it comes down to. That's such a simple difference, but it's a difference that makes a difference. Because like here, basketball hoops, in Europe, it's soccer goals. And like I said, soccer is on the rise in the US, but it's going to take a while before it gets to that cultural level that it is in Europe.
Yeah, man, it's interesting. It's fun talking to somebody from Europe, because everybody gives a little different perspective. But it all comes down to the culture. It really does. As much as we want it to be a really, really popular sport here, it's I mean, I've been here, I'm 33 years old, and, I was what, like almost 10? No, I was 8 when the MLS started. So like, it's only, what? It's only like 20 some years old. So it's still young. Yes, we had like a bunch of other, pro leagues here, but, this has probably lasted the longest. And, so, it's growing. I think they made a good move by taking all the academies under their ropes, under their, under the MLS versus it being associated with U.S. soccer, because then the MLS has a little bit more control of what goes on, which I think is better because then it's it's like Europe. Like they have control of their academy players, and I think that's how it should be, and not the federation of the country. So I think that would be helpful. And it's growing, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, especially like you were saying before. A lot of these kids need a ton, hours of technical work. Like they need to keep focusing on being strong and fast and all that, which is great. But, at the end of the day, like you play against a Spanish team or like even here, a Latino team here, they might not be fit. They might not be, the fastest, the strongest, but those guys can ping it. They can dribble. They can, do all the things that you're going to do and they'll beat you. That's just like their culture too. So,
yeah, it's just different values too. I think in the US, the physical aspect is valued higher than the technical aspect. So I remember just in college when we used to be analyzing other teams that we'd be playing, and the coach would ask like what we thought of this player, and like all the American guys be, well, he's not that fast, or he is fast, or like there's more to it than speed. Like there was nothing. Oh, he can ping a pass accurately from 50 yards, so we'll have to like watch out for that ball over the top or whatever. But it was all about like, oh, he's tall, or he's fast, or he's strong, and there was nothing about that technical ability, which is so important, because at the end of the day, it's playing soccer, and the ability to ping a ball accurately or play one touch, two touch, directional touches, so important, and it makes such a difference at the top level.
Yeah, exactly. And what's funny is the amount of like foreigners or people from outside the US that are in the MLS. Like, I'm not saying that there are not just, like American guys not playing, but you see all these big time designated players that are getting all this money, and they're not from here.
Yeah, so, no, that's
it's kind of a clue. Like, okay, like what are they doing that we're not? So like, I think that's one of the, like I said, like it's a big issue here. We want it to be fun. We want these kids to, not sit in their house all day. And that's the other thing. Like you play that game of like, we want our kids to have fun, like, but then you have a lot of kids that are serious about it. So it's like you're juggling a lot of different things with a lot of these parents, a lot of the kids. So, you got one parent that's like, the kid says one thing about, hey, I'm serious about soccer. And then they just like, all right, well, we're going to do everything you can to get better, like off of one comment. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it's so much pressure, I think, as well as the pressure with scholarships and college scholarships, and sometimes you just need to let them play and just like let them be their age, and just because that's where the most improvements come from as well. You can be put into this very regimented environment and controlled environment, but at the end of the day, the most improvement comes from actually being out there, just expressing yourself and kind of enjoying obviously what you're doing. Because like at that young age, you shouldn't be worried about like professionalism or anything like that, because it's a totally different world, and that'll come in time. But that age, you just need to enjoy it and just enjoy what you're doing, really.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. All right, man. Well, appreciate you hopping on this call with me. Again, it's, I like getting perspectives from, people that come from obviously different country like yourself, but also kind of navigated into the, the fitness, strength conditioning from a different perspective, because you create like an art with your Instagram, but you also apply the science, which is good as well. So it's good to know that there's resources out there like that. So it's cool. So let people know, where they can find you and, listen to, I know you have a podcast, so let them listen to that.
Yeah, of
check out your
course.
stuff.
So it's just Instagram is just at 90 Minutes Fitness. If you search 90 Minutes Fitness, it'll come up. All the links are from there. Podcast is on Spotify, iTunes, all the major platforms. So if you just search 90 Minutes Fitness, and you'll find all the links to everything there. But I just wanted to thanks for having me on as well. It's been great to come on and just hear your perspective as well. So I know in previous podcasts you've kind of given your views on the way soccer is in the US and things. And I think the more conversations that people can have about that, the more improvements that it can make, and obviously make a difference to younger players out there. So now you're putting out great content, and just to keep it up in the future and keep putting it out.
Awesome. Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Thanks for listening to Train to Perform with Julian Sisman. Learn how you can work with Julian in a personal training session, either online or in person, at prepareforperformance.com. And follow on social media for more tips on training, fitness, and sports performance. On Twitter at jsisman_PFP and Instagram at prepareforperformance.